This podcast is brought to you by Triple Gap SPC, a sustainability-first business consulting firm. We empower consumer brands to do good better. It's about social and environmental integrity. Come find out more at triplegap.com. Welcome to the podcast, Better Stuff, Not Enough. I'm your host, Adam Elliott. We believe that things need to be better. We need to be making and producing, designing, developing,
manufacturing, sourcing of the raw materials, distributing of these goods, positioning, marketing, selling,
etc. stuff better. We need to be making better stuff. But we also believe that that's not enough. We need to be consuming the things better. And so this is about that. This is about products. This is about sustainability. These are the conversations with professionals in the industry that are making decisions about sustainability and product. Join us. Welcome to Better Stuff, Not Enough. And in this episode, we get a chance to talk with Adam Chuntz. He is the Director of Integrated Marketing and E-commerce at an underwear brand called Beneath, spelled BN3TH. They make some pretty interesting underwear. I'm pretty excited to see them on the market. They used to be known as MyPackage, interestingly enough. The brand, he gets into a little bit about how that brand pivot happened and what their company is all about from a values perspective. It's a great conversation. I hope you enjoy. And as always, look forward to your comments below. Enjoy it. All right, Adam Chuntz, thanks for taking the time to do this interview. I'm excited to talk to you and get a little bit more context about Beneath and your journey in your role at Beneath, but also kind of how Beneath is positioning itself in the marketplace, particularly around values and sustainability measures. And so, yeah, welcome to Better Stuff, Not Enough. We'll dive into it. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being here. First off, a little bit about yourself. How long have you been at Beneath and how did you get here? How long has Beneath been around? Let's get a little bit of a sense of an origin story here.
For sure. So technically Beneath started in 2010. The co-founders they recognized a hole in the market and really were building a product to perform better as athletes. They kind of came from the snowboard, wakeboard world, but mostly snow and skate. And it really was identifying a need for a better way to wear underwear from a support perspective. There was others out in the market, and they figured out a better way to do it, so that you could have a more comfortable experience and therefore better performance in whatever sport you're doing. So the brand started then. It was formerly known as MyPackage. I came on board right at the beginning as an athlete, first and foremost, which is kind of interesting. And in 2014, I came on board as the creative director, where I took over all the creative direction, all things considered underneath that umbrella, everything from print, branding, catalogs, web, you name it. And then in 2016, evolved into the marketing side of things. So really now oversee all the marketing as well as all the creative. So it's been a really fun journey. Early 2016, we started spearheading developing a new brand platform and really settling down on what we are as a brand and what we stand for, all of anything from like a value proposition just to from an external side of things as well as internal. During that process, very quickly realized the name MyPackage really butted heads with who we wanted to be as a company and as a brand for something that people could really resonate with and connect with. So that led to a full rebrand. So we spent the better part of 2 years really diving into how we can develop a brand. And that's where we landed on Beneath. And Beneath itself, so we flipped the switch February 1st, 2018. And at that time, we turned MyPackage off and we turned Beneath on. And we really treat it like a growing up. So we took MyPackage as, before it was young, it was fun, it was very on the nose, but it also lended itself to being gimmicky. And it's not a gimmick, it's a really functional product. And now we have a really cool brand to lean on that people respect and that people are seeking after and all that sort of stuff. So it's been a fun journey. Just over 3 years now since Beneath has been Beneath. And now we're getting, a lot more love, and we're doing a lot of things really, really well. And I'm excited for what's next. We're on a bit of a rocket ship right now. It's pretty fun.
That's great. Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about that kind of that rebranding moment for you guys, because it sounds like, hearing you describe it, right? It's product first, it's functionality, it's making sure that you've got a really great product, and recognizing that the value of that product, the function of it, is intrinsically tied to values and what the brand stands for, and I think that there's a lot of other brands that are currently going through this phase of call it a pivot or a rebrand or an identity crisis of figuring out what do we stand for values wise. And so let's talk a little bit about that process. How did you how did the team kind of grapple with the aspirations and challenges of sustainability? What were some of the pain points that you guys were seeing and wanting to address? And tell me a little bit about that sustainability side of things.
Yeah, it's funny. Sustainability nowadays is like a layer that should exist in every single company that produces a good. And the reality of it is that since day one, sustainability was always just a core focus of the business, but it was by no means our message. And we didn't even talk about it at the beginning. It was like, well, we're producing something, we better do it as good as you can and keep evolving. And I think that mantra really drove us to leaning into it even further, because we very quickly realized that we were ahead of the curve in terms of like our competitors and what we were doing and making decisions that are first and foremost an expense. It's a choice to really use better products, do everything you can to offset and actually reduce your impacts. But it comes down to an expense, and it comes down to the founders wanting to do that from there. So luckily they always had that in their minds. And the main reason is that, the brand is inspired by the outdoors. It's inspired by snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, mountain biking, being out in the mountains and the ocean. And that's where we see climate change and all that sort of stuff firsthand. And we want to enjoy it. Like, first, to be selfish, we want to keep that as good as it can be. But the bigger part is we want to leave it better than it is now, and what we can do to contribute to that, because that's what we want to do. This product was built so you can go enjoy these activities and be out in nature. So that ethos really carried its way all the way through since day one. Now, as we were looking at a deeper level, you kind of tie it to internal values of the business. One of them that we love is be good for nothing. And it has like an altruistic element to it, where it's just like, be a good person, like don't be an asshole. That's all it is. And it's pretty simple. But on the other side of it, it's doing things for the planet as well. It's really coming down to like doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, as opposed to because it's a choice that's going to allow you to sell more product. That's just a byproduct of it. So forever, like, it's not been our headline. It's marketing has not forced sustainability on our end. It's just a layer, and it's really important there. But I think the biggest differentiator for us is that we are doing it as honestly as we possibly can. And we do it underneath a banner and a headline for sustainability of, we're not perfect, but we're trying. Everyone has this idea around what sustainability means, and they just think it's all or nothing. It's black or white, and it's not. And that's the problem, I think, in just overall society. And we've adopted that internally as a business, and it really allows us to chip away and constantly do more and more and more. And every time we can do better, it really, shows direct impact, and we can communicate it with proof and actually say, hey, like, this is something we've been working towards, and here's how we did it. So it trips all the way from the top to the bottom. But the main reason is, keeping this planet awesome. That's the big focus.
That's excellent. I definitely, I agree with everything you just said. It's refreshing to hear people talk about sustainability from that, from a place of humility and of trying, right? Like honesty, transparency, and commitment to progress. That's how we're going to win the race. That's how we're going to actually do better. Tell me a little bit more about I guess company culture and supply chain and the human side of Beneath and you know, I think often it's important and it's great thing to focus on the environmental side, and I appreciate that about Beneath. But you know, tell me about what's the company culture like? Who do you have working there? And you know, you mentioned that you're on a little bit of a rocket ship, which is fantastic. Are you growing? How do you attract talent? Do you feel like your the ethics of the brand have helped foster a good workforce that wants to stay and that sort of thing?
100%. It is absolutely, you know, it's part of our criteria bringing on anyone from the initial steps. It's do you fit our culture and our value set? And that comes down to, you know, thinking differently. You know, one of our main, as I mentioned, was be good for nothing. So there's a component of, you know, just doing the right thing, just being a good person. But on the other side, it comes down to like accountability and really saying like this ties into everything from sustainability to producing a good product to focusing on the customer. It's say what you mean and then own it. And those sort of things that drips through everyone. But the biggest part is have fun. Like keep it fun is one of our main values. And really, we are such a fun group of people. Everyone's very, it's a fairly young workforce. Everyone's really geared around like being outdoors and just getting together, doing things in a, you know, normal world pre-COVID and hopefully soon, where we can enjoy each other's company. And it really doesn't feel like work. Like we all work together, knowing that we make a great good and we actually have an impact on someone is the biggest part of why people work for us in general. It's that we have a product that changes someone's life. And I mean that. Like it's, as a guy, you put them on for the first time, you're like, what? This is kind of weird. But then you're like, this is amazing. The second you put on normal underwear. And then you layer in, you know, the fact that it's all made from a fiber called Tencel Modal, which is completely sustainable. You know, we've got so many great benefits that it literally changes someone's opinion of how they start their day. And that drips through every, you know, goes all the way to like, you know, someone in accounting. They see the direct impacts of how we've made someone's life better or made them happy and that sort of thing. So our culture is really incredible, and it's amazing as we're hiring lots of people right now on this growth curve. It's the number one topic that comes up after, you know, week 1, week 2 of them kind of onboarding. They just chime in on, say we have a big all hands meeting. They always talk about our culture first. And it's so cool to sit back and say, hey, like it is a really great culture. This is really cool that people want to communicate that. And, you know, you don't overtly put it out there. It's just part of it's ingrained in the overall process and how we exist.
That's great. This is a little bit of a shift. I don't have a good segue from topic to topic on this one, but you know, looking through the website, I was really impressed by how front and center the impact of the product is kind of highlighted at, you know, as a feature, right? This is kind of like part of what you're buying and figuring out, you know, what Beneath is all about. You're seeing the impact, the amount of, you know, materials saved, the amount of carbon offset, et cetera. And I dug a little bit deeper, and that was a tool, you know, kind of an interface tool developed by Green Story. And tell me a little bit about working with them to help you kind of dive into the analytics and share those stats with your consumers.
Yeah, I first and foremost, I'm so thankful for finding them. I was browsing, I wish I could remember, but a random website that had popped up in some sort of feed, and I saw this cool little widget on their PDP, on their product page, and I was like, that is really, really neat. It just showed how much savings this product was compared to another product. I was like, in terms of like an impact from a sustainability side of things. And I had that little Green Story, like learn more, and I clicked through to it, and I reached out to them. This is probably, I want to say 4 years ago, maybe something along those lines, and started the conversation and said, what's involved here? Like, what's this all about? And they do it so well because it's end to end in terms of your supply chain. They analyze every single piece from your original source through to your mills, all your transportation, through your factories and then all your delivery. That gets us to our warehousing in North America for the most part, with a little bit of distribution worldwide, but the bulk of our business is Canada and the US. But we just loved the fact that they could dive into this and we would have like proof to say, hey, like here's exactly what we're impacting. And comparing directly to cotton on our side of things is when using Tencel Modal. That's really where we have the Green Story data right now. Tencel we use across over 90% of our product range right now. So it made sense to really focus on that. We're going to start bringing other fabrics into the story so we can do a full analysis as those segments grow. But I just have loved every step of the way. They keep evolving the widget and also just the impact, just the communication around how simple the message can be to the consumer. And I think sustainability can be overwhelming, especially when you talk about, savings compared to, talking about like amount of CO2 in tons and things like that. People don't necessarily understand it. So they've made it really easy to understand for the average consumer. But then I want to say it's probably a year ago, they brought on the carbon offsetting side of things. And as I'm sure you're very well aware, carbon offsetting has had a bit of a rough journey, and it still does because it has a lot of negative stigmas to it. And that's typically because people just treat it like a license to pollute. And it's really like, oh, I'm going to buy credits so I can actually, pollute more, essentially, in its rawest form. So we've always kind of avoided that side of it until a really good solution has come to place. And Green Story did it again with their other side of things, called Simply Neutral, I think. Sorry, I'm going to blow that name. Simple Neutrality or something like that.
We'll put a little asterisk and a little note in the show notes with the link so people can find out more.
Exactly. And that has been incredible. So we've brought that to our online sales for Tencel Modal products. So the best part about that is that all of our Tencel Modal products sold online are completely carbon neutral now. The best part is it's actually purchasing or it's going towards projects, renewable projects that are in direct relation to where we operate. So we've got a hydro water plant in China that's really close to our state-of-the-art factory, which is really, really close to being fully sustainable, which is absolutely incredible, as well as some other initiatives around tree planting in California, which is a big market for us, and all sorts of stuff there. So I just love that it's actually building community and actually driving, positive change as opposed to like buying credits. They're very different things.
Yeah. This is kind of related, but a little bit distinct as well. What's your sense for a brand that's recognizing the value of doing good and having a positive impact, not just from the fact that it's making the world a better place, but also the fact that it's better for their more traditional bottom line too, right? That the investment in people and planet is an investment in your business. What would you say to a brand that's struggling with how to best spend those limited dollars on, product sustainability versus brand sustainability or mix of? And the reason I'm asking about that is it's a common question that I get, and I have an answer that I share with my clients. But product versus brand at a high level. Do you think that that's a good question to be asking, or how should people be investing their dollars?
I think it kind of goes back to, what I was saying earlier around, if you produce a product, you should be thinking about sustainability. And if you're not, that's just really selfish and really not accepted these days. When you pull the veil back and you realize what people claim from a brand perspective around sustainability, it's really sad. People, the term greenwashing is one of those things out there that is absolutely disgusting, in my opinion. And it's doing it from a place that they're trying to take advantage of the consumer because they don't know any better. And they just assume that everything that's out there is going to be truth, and it's not. Luckily, consumers, especially younger consumers, are getting smarter and more diligent about diving into where their products come from and what they're made from. So I think it's, one of those things about a balance there. From a brand perspective, if you're going to produce a product, you better produce a really good product. ultimate sustainability is a product that doesn't hit a landfill. Like that is it in its truest sense. Now, that's not possible. There are you can extend the lifetime, but you need to start with a better product. If that product's only going to last like a few weeks or a few months, what's the point? It can be as good as you want, but it's going to end up in a landfill, and that's the opposite of what sustainability should be. So for Beneath, it's a combo of brand and product. But it starts with product. It starts with producing a good product, a great product with, the latest technologies around, the function of actually like building the product and stitching and minimal waste, but also using, great fabrics and fibers to get there that are sustainable to start with, or as sustainable as possible. So I think, yeah, it really is a balance between brand and product. But ultimately, if there's a disconnect, like then you're in trouble. Then that's when you get into one of those things that is like greenwashing, where the brand says it's sustainable, but the product isn't, and it just makes absolutely no sense. So luckily, not luckily, it's completely intentional. Like we absolutely try to do that from top to bottom, from brand all the way through product, because they can't live without each other in the Beneath world.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Well said. It's the way that I talk about greenwashing with anybody who wants to listen is that it's often done from a place of wanting to do good, right? It comes from a good place of like saying, okay, this part of our supply chain is making steps toward being more environmentally responsible, and yet that's good, and you should do that. But if the rest of your brand and operations and and everything is ignoring the good that it can do, then you're greenwashing. And it's when people kind of try to piecemeal their sustainability operations and have a green line, and yet 90% of their product is really bad for the environment, then it's not doing anybody any good.
I agree.
The last question that I have for you is, I like that you got into this profession as an athlete first, and came into working with, I guess it was MyPackage at the time, but as an athlete, and then found your way into a growing role around market and e-commerce. What advice would you give to somebody looking to make a brand a better brand, and making their products better products? And let's talk about that person that is coming from the end consumer perspective, as yourself being an athlete. That's how I got into doing what I'm doing as an outdoor professional rafter and somebody who uses these products a lot. That got me passionate about product design. Tell me about any advice you'd have for someone along that path.
That's a great question, and it kind of jumps back to understanding a company's values and really believing in what the company is about, what they stand for, and make sure that you align with that when you're pursuing kind of what, maybe it's a job opportunity or anything along those lines, or an internship or anything. Maybe you're an ambassador, whatever it is. Making sure that you actually sync up with what that company actually stands for is really important, because if there's a disconnect there from day one, no matter what your role or partnership or anything is with said company, it's never going to be as good as it could be. And most often it's going to be more troublesome. And I think, define your own values first and make sure that they connect with said other values of any company or business you're going to work with. I would say when you're talking about, sustainability in particular, I've had call it the pleasure and a struggle of beating the drum, of saying, how can we keep improving? How can we keep doing more? And it's not easy. And the main reason is because it's an investment by the actual owners of the business. The way that a lot of businesses are set up is you think it can be a line item as an expense that can hit like a marketing budget. But to be honest, most of it comes off just like a charitable donation would. So therefore, it is a direct impact to the pockets of the people that own the business. And when you have buy-in from them and they believe in what you're doing, and you're asking them to literally make less money to invest in a better future, like that is, how many check marks is that across the board for like, holy crap, like that's how literally invested they are into believing in making a better product and a better planet. So I think, it's not easy. It's not easy to have those conversations, to keep pushing and keep pushing to do more, but speak up too. If there's opportunities and there's things to ultimately, make change for the better, I think it's always worth speaking up. At Beneath, one of our values is no bad ideas. And a lot of what we've done with sustainability, especially when it comes down to events and working with, say like Surfrider Foundation around beach cleanups and things like that, like all of those come from an employee at the business that put their hand up and saying, hey, this would be a great addition to our overall, initiative around sustainability, and tying it back to everything else there. And those things, without someone putting their hand up, don't necessarily happen because you're so busy focusing on the business in the moment. So I think, yeah, just put your hand up, be vocal, and keep what you want to stand for in mind, top of mind, number one for sure.
I love it. I think that's sage advice, is to start from a place of values and values alignment, and that's so important. I love it. Just to tie in with what you're talking about, when putting that ask to the owners, to the board, the stakeholders, the shareholders, is that I think it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate that sustainability has been considered a nice to have and kind of something on top to put, some sprinkles on the icing of the cake. And the way that we work at Triple Gap and some of our other service partners that we work with is that we recognize that it is a core and fundamental part of the value proposition, and as such it should be considered as like a material investment, and any other feature or product attribute that's going into what the brand sells to its customer, and as such it deserves to be compared alongside, right, and analyzed and critiqued, and like, is this investment performing? Are we seeing return on it? And so what we've been doing is analyzing just how much demand there is for sustainability for whatever target market there is, and what sorts of margins exist, how resistant is that demand to price increase, and how to factor all of that into development of future products and future brand initiatives. And in that way, it's taking it out of the that last agenda item at the board meeting and putting it heart and center into product development. So,
I love that.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about or add, or anything you'd like to share with our audience about kind of upcoming news at Beneath, or anything else?
For sure. Well, we're going to keep trying to make it better. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. This tagline of on our sustainability side of things is, we're not perfect, but we're trying, right? And every step of the way, it's how to continually improve. So we've got some really aggressive goals to make 90%, 95% of the line completely sustainable by 2025. And we're really close in general, but it's like chipping off those other smaller segments of the business, and we're going to keep diving more and more towards that. So we're going to keep doing everything we can about making a better product, but it's not only that, it's our packaging, it's every other touch point that we can really nail down and take less of an impact to create a better experience for the planet, but also the people wearing the product. And as a guy, if you haven't tried it, I promise it will change your life. We have a 100% guarantee it truly will change the way you think about underwear. And it's an interesting topic that you'll find other guys telling you about once they try it. You'd never expect. So check it out. We do make radically better underwear, and it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for your time, Adam. Thanks for listening. I hope this was informative, entertaining, and helpful to you in some way. Thank you for dedicating time to improvement, and thanks for leaving this place better than we found it. And please don't forget, if you haven't yet subscribed, do that, and go out, rate this podcast, write a review, share this podcast. All of that helps immensely. If you have any topic or person that you'd like to see or hear featured on this podcast, please send me an email at pod@triplegap.com. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much. Take care.